I'm not going to pick Chris Paul, even though he is the smartest guy on that team and the most experienced. I'm not even going to go with Devin Booker, even though he's the best scorer and the most skilled. Of their big three, I'm going with the big man. I'm going with Deandre Ayton because it seems to me that the skills that he has can't be replicated by anybody else on that team. No one is better at running the team than Chris Paul. But we've seen Devin Booker, serviceably be a point guard and distributor and run the pick and roll and all that stuff. No one scores as well as Booker. But we've seen Campaign come out and cook for a hot minute and do things like that. Nobody can do what Deandre Ayton can do on that team as far as rebounding, giving them offensive rebounds, which are just as good as turnovers, giving them the ball back in those situations. But more importantly, it's his ability to stay on the floor on the defensive end of the court. Because we see in the playoffs, and we saw it especially with Utah, with Rudy Gobert, is how difficult it is for a big man to be able to protect the rim and also be switched on the little guys and be okay. Deandre Ayton has done that. And my fear, the reason why I think he is probably the most important person right now, is that they could get away. They did get away with not having Chris Paul on the floor for a game, and they won. And they can get away for stretches of not having Devin Booker out there or not even having him play all that well, because after he broke his nose, he hasn't been the same necessarily since that happened and with Patrick Beverley on him. But I don't think they can survive without a big man like they have in Deandre Ayton. I think if you pull him off of this team is much worse, especially given the way that he's playing right now. And that's not even to get into his burst of offensive production that he's had in the playoffs. He is a really, really special player right now. And I know that he's not better than either of those other guys, but he's more important because his skills are harder to find and they are much needed in the playoffs.
Well, Dominique, let me say this. You are right. He is a skilled big man, and I'm a huge fan of Deandre Ayton. I love what he has done in this postseason for us anchoring the defense on the defensive end on the defensive side of things, and what he's provided offensively. Nice touch around the basket. He's a lob threat at the basket. He has great footwork. He has it all, in my opinion. And no one ever questioned his skill set. But let me tell you why CP3 is the most valuable, okay? Because he brought something to this team that they were missing, and that's heart. That's toughness. He instilled that into these young guys, a winning culture, winning ways, how to sacrifice, how to put yourself last, how to lose yourself in the team. And that's what we're seeing. We watch this Phoenix Suns team play, and they play a gender-free basketball. They don't care who has to shine. They don't care who's leading the team and scoring that night. They just want to get the W. And that goes to how great of a leader and floor general Chris Paul is. Now, with that being said, when it's time for him to step up and rise to the occasion, let's not forget, before he left and went and had to go into that COVID protocol, what he did to the Denver Nuggets. All right, I believe he dropped 37 in the closeout game. But when you look at what Deandre Ayton said post-game, he said it himself. The best thing that happened for my career was CP3 coming here. He said it himself. So with that being said, that's enough said for us who's the most valuable player. CP3 is a culture changer. He may not have won the championship yet, because I strongly believe that this is his year to win the championship. He may not have won it yet, but every organization he's touched, he made them a winning a culture. So to take a team from not making the playoffs since 2010 and getting them where they at today, CP3 is the most valuable. He should have won MVP of the league, in my opinion.
All right, now that's a whole nother debate. But I think that the problem with giving CP3 all this credit for these intangible things, I think he deserves it. I love him as a player, and the few times I spent with him, he's an awesome person, and I can see how he could motivate people in that way. But when you're doing that, you're also taking credit away from Monty Williams. Like, it's not like they didn't win, 9 straight in the bubble last year? Like, they were learning how to play together back then. Like, this is not something that CP3 just introduced to them. Like, they were playing agenda-free, as you called it, basketball back then, right? Like, they were started to build this. Chris Paul's not the only one who does that. Monty Williams does that. And that's my point. That's why Ayton is special to me, because he's the only one on the team that they have that can do what he does particularly on the defensive end of the ball. And his screening, I know it's not something that people want to talk a lot about, but the assists off the screens, like that is a valuable thing that it seems like no one else on that roster can do or does do nearly as well or consistently as Deandre Ayton. And you brought up the last series. Who was guarding Jokic? That was Ayton. So I understand CP3's 37 points. It's impressive, but you watch that series, them not needing to double Jokic consistently is a credit to Deandre Ayton. And Chris Paul, as great as he is, he's not having that impact on the defensive end of the floor.
Are you serious right now? Are you really serious right now? Look, Domonique, listen.
Okay.
I know you're watching the same. Do you have your return on? Are you watching the clips that are being played right now?
I'm watching them clips.
Okay, so in this pick and roll setting, when Deandre Ayton is being set up for easy layups and easy lobs at the basket, who is setting these plays up for him on this return? Is it CP3?
I believe it's Chris Paul. It could be Cliff, but I think it's Chris.
It could be Chris or it could be Cliff Paul, right? From the State Farm, it could be Cliff. Right? It's Cliff Paul, right? You see what I'm saying, man. At the end of the day, I'm not taking anything away from Deandre Ayton. I'm not taking anything away from him. He's one of my favorite players in the league. Before the season, I said he was going to have a breakout season. But Chris Paul, what he brought to that team, he brought that killer mentality. Before then, look, Deandre Ayton last year was averaging 16 and 10. But he just brought the kill out of him. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And that's why I didn't focus on the offensive side of the ball. Like, I know that a lot of his points are created by Chris Paul being able to masterfully run that pick and roll. But I do think that he might have woken Deandre Ayton up. But now that Deandre Ayton is awake, he's more valuable to that team, and we've seen it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.